This is something you're not going to learn, well, you didn't learn in school. You're not going to learn it on the radio or on television or in college or anywhere else. This is something that the people in politics understand. And most of them just don't really care to share it with everybody. I don't know if they consider it to be dangerous information in the hands of, the little people, as some of them call us. But basically, we have to understand what a coalition is. It's vital, it's basic. And basically what it means is, it's individuals that get together to accomplish a goal. It's really that simple. And in politics, the goal, now we may have other goals like lowering taxes and everything else you can imagine. But if you want to accomplish those things, you have to have a friend in the chairman of that committee, whichever committee is doing that, whether it's the Congress of the United States, whether it's the Senate, which is just a committee, they're all just committees. Whether it's the state legislature, the state senate, the state school board, your county commission, your township trustees, your local school board, it doesn't matter. They're all committees, and they all elect a chairman, and that chairman wields the gavel. And the gavel, and the person with the gavel decides who gets to speak and when, and the chairman, which is the person that wields the gavel, also has the calendar. They decide what's going to get voted on and when. And they also have the majority within that committee, because if they didn't have the majority, they wouldn't have the gavel. So if you're not a majority on that committee, whether it's a legislature or a school board or whatever, then you are not going to elect your person, your buddy as the chairman. And it means you're not going to have the gavel, you're not going to have the calendar. You might as well just go home and read a book. You're not going to get anything you want. It's a winner-take-all system. Okay, so if we contrast the European system with our system, you'll see why it's more clear in Europe what a coalition is. It's less clear over here because we call our coalitions here, we call them parties. Now over there they have parties, but when they have an election, let's see, we'll just go along with this line. Yeah, in Europe there are dozens, if in some places hundreds of parties. And they stand, most of them stand for very few issues, single issues. And when they get elected by proportional representation. And however many votes that party gets, that's how many seats they get in Parliament. Now, usually, there's not a clear winner. Not one party wins a majority. So they can't, what they call, form a government. So what they'll do is after the election, all these parties will start having, backroom deals. They'll start talking to each other and form coalitions. They'll start getting deals from each other. You get my guy in here, and I'll get your guy in over there. And pretty soon they have a coalition, and as soon as they have a majority, then they elect a prime minister, and boom, they form a government. And they rule until the next election. Because they now have majority, they have their prime minister, which is equivalent to our Speaker of the House.
You covered all that. You covered all that.
I covered all that, okay. Okay, so, but in our system, it's different. We only have two coalitions, or two parties, as we call them. And so all of our negotiating with each other, all of our coalition forming, all of our deal making has to be done before the election. It can't be done afterwards. And this really leads to a lot of confusion. What happens is a lot of people they think that the parties or the coalitions are this monolithic thing out in the middle of nowhere that they have absolutely no control over. And they speak about them as if they were, space aliens or something. They say this party that, this party that. When in reality, we have if we don't like what our coalition is doing, our party, we can change that. And that's part of what we're going to be talking about. Okay, well, the Speaker of the House is the same as the Prime Minister in Europe. The Speaker of the House has the gavel. The Speaker of the House has the calendar. In our case, our Speaker of the House, or the Chairman of the Congress, if you want to call her that, is Nancy Pelosi. And she decides who gets to speak and when. She gets to decide what bills are going to be voted on and when. They run the whole operation, the Speaker does, and her staff. And so if we want to get any of our bills passed, if we want to restore liberty, then we have to get that gavel. There is no other option. It doesn't really matter who the president is. It doesn't matter who the Supreme Court is. None of that matters until we get that gavel. Now, after we get the gavel, okay, I'll take the president as gravy, and I'll take, the Supreme Court as gravy, but without the Speaker's gavel, we get nothing, because the Congress, all spending bills have to originate now in the House of Representatives. And so they control all spending. In fact, the president couldn't get his carpets cleaned without the Speaker signing the check. So the purpose of our party, or our coalition, whatever you want to call it, is to achieve the gavel, is to achieve the Speaker of the House. Okay. Oh, now this is interesting. There's only one vote in the House of Representatives that's always straight down party lines, and that is for Speaker of the House. Now, there's only been one vote in my living memory of a guy who, he was a Democrat, and he voted for the Republican Speaker. Well, he immediately lost his seniority. He lost all his committee positions and his chairmanships. And apparently they took the protective ring around him away as well, because he was soon indicted for official corruption, and he spent I don't know how many years in prison. He was from northeast Ohio. Jim Trafficant. Yeah, Jim Trafficant. So that's what happens when people vote for the other party or coalition's speaker. There's a type. Well, you've heard of rhinos. Well, there's also dinos. Democrats in name only. Well, there's Republicans in name only. And there's Democrats in name only. And so one of the problems we have is that because our system is the way it is, Speaker Pelosi, she does this better than anybody. Her and her staff, they run conservative Democrats in conservative districts where there's a lot of conservative voters. And this guy will be, pro-life, pro-gun, pro-low tax. And he may really be. He may not be lying. Of course, he might be, but who knows? But in any case, if he gets elected, then he is going to vote for Nancy Pelosi for Speaker. That's just the way it is. So in reality, it's better to have a rhino up there on the first day of each session of Congress than it is to have a dino. Because at least this guy on one vote for the next 2 years is going to vote correctly. I mean, he may vote against our coalition for every other vote for the next 2 years, but at least we'll have a conservative or a more conservative speaker than we would have otherwise. And one of the things that really bothers me is like on radio, there's not a single radio talk show host that'll point this out to you. It's really sad. I don't know.